grandparents that stretches through back to the kings of Bernicia, of Bernicia, all the way back to this formation, this early kingdom that straddled the border of Scotland and northern England. Now this kingdom would eventually spread all the way up into Edinburgh, almost all the way over to Glasgow, and it would also take on the kingdom of Adaria to the south, all the way to the river, the Humber River. So without further ado, let's trace my roots back to this kingdom of Angles that started sometime probably in the late 400s, early 500s. So let's get queued up. So this is part of my family tree, and to the left is me and my parents. And tracing back to this line of kings and earlmen of Northumbria and Bernicia, it goes through my father's line, Roger Bruce Slaton. And it goes through his father, Rory Dennis Slaton. Back through my great-grandfather, William Dennis Asbury Slaton. And this is where it would split off into the maternal line through my great-grandmother, Maggie Dolores Westmoreland. Her father was James Robert Westmoreland. Now this Westmoreland family, it originally came, as you will see, from the Carolinas and Virginia. And they would settle in East Texas and Northwest Louisiana in the 1800s. So James Robert Westmoreland, up into my next great-grandfather, would be Joseph Riley Westmoreland. And then back to him would be his father, Robert Westmoreland of South Carolina. Before that, as you can see, is Edmund Westmoreland, and he is of Virginia, Lunenburg, Virginia. Now his father was Reeves Westmoreland, born about 1767 in the colony of Virginia. So he was born before the American Revolution. Tracing back would be his father, Thomas Fane-Westmoreland, born 1725. And his father, John Thomas Westmoreland, who was born in Westmorland, England, the county of Westmorland. He is married to Mary Fane, and this is how the name that would carry all into the Americas, this Fane-Westmoreland name, would come about. Now, John Thomas was named after his father, John Thomas Westmoreland, and he was named for James Thomas Neville of Westmorland, 1635. And then comes Sir Thomas Neville of Westmorland, born 1601 to and died 1665. Before that would be Edmund Neville, and before that, Richard Neville. And tracing back before that would be William Neville. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have to look at a man by the name of Sir Thomas Neville of Westmorland. And then James Thomas of Westmorland. These individuals' uncle would be the Earl of Westmorland, and it would be that Earl that would cause the family to drop the Neville surname, as they were known for, and take the name of their earldom or their county, Westmorland. So these people would disassociate themselves with the Neville name because the Neville name was considered traitors to the crown of England. Thus ends the noble lines, and these individuals would become commoners and would migrate to the Americas. So going back up to Richard Neville, He was the son of William Neville, son of Latimer Neville, son of Sir Henry Neville, and Lady Joan Borcher. Now, this is where the pedigree begins to span out, and this Westmorland Neville family becomes very, very much married into famous families. George Neville was married to the Baroness of Beauchamp, and her family spreads through some powerful de Berkeley lines and Beauchamp lines, or Beauchamp, I'm sorry. Now, George's father was Ralph Neville. He was married to Joan Beaufort. She was the daughter of John of Gaunt. Now, remember, John of Gaunt is the daughter of Edward III, and John of Gaunt would be called the King Mate. He would be, his daughter, Joan Beaufort, would marry Ralph Neville. Now, John was the son of the king. He was a prince, never became a king himself, but John of Gaunt was one of the most wealthy men in the history of all the British Isles, wealthier than most kings before and after him. His daughter, marrying Ralph Neville, Ralph took the name Kingmaker because of his wife, who was a princess. Many kings would spring from their line. Ralph was the son of John Neville in the famous de Percy family through Maud. Maud was the daughter of Henry Percy. Going back, John was the son of Ralph Neville, born in Durham, England. It must be noted that John, I kind of skipped over his birthplace, he was born in Alnwick Castle in Northumbria. His father was born in Durham. Now, Ralph takes his name after his father, Ralph. And going back, we see Robert de Neville, who was married to Mary Fitz Randolph. Now, Robert was the son of Robert de Neville, the first Lord of Raby Castle. He was the son of Sir Geoffrey de Neville, the first Baron of Raby. And his mother was Joan Manoth, which was the Lord John de Monmouth of Wales. Going back, this is where the Nevilles would take their name, because the Nevilles get their name Neville from a Norman lord that came over with William the Conqueror. But this is where the Nevilles stop, because Sir Geoffrey de Neville, the first Baron of Raby, was the son of Robert Fitzmaldred and Isabel de Neville. He took his mother's name because his grandfather, Geoffrey de Neville, was a very powerful and wealthy man. So instead of taking his father's name, he took his maternal name. And the de Neville, through his mother, is a Norman that came in during the time of William the Conqueror. But the paternal line, however, lies in a different direction. Maldred Dolphin, the son, is the father of Robert. And Maldred is the son of Dolphin Fitz-Uhtred. So as you can see, we're going to break off the family tree right here, and we're following it back up from, technically we're not breaking off the family tree, we're just breaking off the surname de Neville into the idea of Fitzes, which was brought in. This is a Brittany. This is in south of Normandy in France, but these individuals were originally Britons that left southern Britain because of the invasions of the Anglos, Jutes, and Saxons. So Maldred was the son of Dolphin Fitz-Uhtred. Maldred was, and then Dolphin was the son of Uhtred Fitz-Maldred. Maldred was Maldred den Dunbar. And then Maldred was the son of Maldred of Aladel and Eglith of Northumbria. Now, this is where we're going to split off from the Neville, Westmoreland Neville / the Fitzes family. Because if you continue to go with this Neville Westmoreland line, as I'm going to show, Maldred was the son of Crinan of Dunkeld, the Mormaer of Athol. And his mother was Bethoc, the daughter of Malcolm, King of Scotland. But that's not the line we're going to follow. So as we've proven, the Westmorlands come from the Nevilles, who come from the Fitzes during the time of the Norman naming system of surnames. They were really a descendant of Crinan of Dunkeld. And the Princess of Scotland, the daughter of King Malcolm II, Bethoc. Now, this Maldred, who was the son of Crinan, the Mormaer of Athol, and Bethoc, the Scottish princess, daughter of King Malcolm, this son would marry Ealdormen of Northumbria. And this begins our line of this Scottish prince marrying this Northumbrian princess, Ealdormen of Northumbria. So Ealdormen of Northumbria is married to Uhtred of Bamborough and Eglitha, Lady of Northumbria. Now, Eglitha, Lady of Northumbria, was the daughter of Athelred the Unready, which was the king of the South Saxons, and Eglitha of York. But Uhtred of Bamborough's father was Ralthroth of Bamborough. And his father, let's open the screen up. So we see his father was Oswulf of Bamborough, and Estrith, Stephen's daughter, which was more than likely his mother, Oswulf's wife, was more than likely a daughter of a Norse prince or nobility. So Oswulf of Bamborough was the son of Edwulf of Bamborough, born 860, died 913. As we march forward, we see that Edwulf of Bamborough is the son of Egbert of Northumbria, and Aldrith, who was the daughter of Ella, the king of Northumbria. So now we have two branches of kings of Northumbria. One is Athelred of Northumbria, if we follow the father line back. And then if we follow the mother line back of Alla, the king of Northumbria, we have Osbert Athelred II. But we're not following that. We're going to follow the straight paternal line from the breakage of the Neville family marriage to Egbert. So Egbert of Northumbria was the son of Athelred of Northumbria and Athol, the king of Northumbria's daughter. Athelred was, and so what we're seeing here is the third cousins or second cousins married each other. So Egbert of Northumbria and Athelrith or Athelthrith are cousins, or second or third cousins. So Athelred of Northumbria, king of Northumbria, goes back to Anared of Northumbria, which goes back to Ardwulf, the fourth of Northumbria. Then we get back to Eldrith of Northumbria, 735-774. I haven't been saying the dates. I don't know if you can see the dates on the screen, so I apologize for that. But so we're back to 735 to 774 was a lifetime of Edward of Northumbria. He was a son of Erdwine of Northumbria, 700 to 740. Then we go back to Aedwulf of Northumbria, 670 to 717. So this Aedwulf's this name is very popular among the kings of Northumbria. Next is Leolwald, 635. We don't have a deceased date. Leolwald was the son of Eckelwulf, born around 600, who was the son of Adhelm of Northumbria, born 565. Now we're marching into deep territories because we're now back before the kingdom, which was combined in the 560s to 570s. On and off, the kings of Bernicia would rule over all of Northumbria. And this means at times the kings of Daria and the kings of Bernicia would take turns ruling as the high king over all of the lands north of Umbria. Sometimes you would have just kings of Bernicia and just kings of Daria. At other times, there would be kings of all of Northumbria. Now, Northumbria at a point would be all the way from the river, north of the river Humber, which is south of York, all the way up, and that's generally the area, the kingdom of York or the kingdom of Daria, runs all the way up to what is now Northumberland, the county far northeast in today's England, and over to the border into Lothian, all the way up to Edinburgh, and as far over as toward as Glasgow. So we're back to Adhelm of Northumbria, 565, who was the son of Ulga of Bernicia, 542. He was the son of Ida, king of Bernicia. Now, Ida is really, really important. He seems to be the first in line of a very powerful kingdom of these individuals, these Angles, that came over from what is now modern Denmark on the Jutland Peninsula, that would land along all the way stretching from East Anglia all the way up into what is now Lothian or Mid-Lothian, Scotland. He was 511 to 559. According to the chronicles, and most of these chronicles that we get are from Venerable Bede, but we also get some manuscripts from the Welsh down in Wales that tell of these people. So Ida is the son of Eppa, king of Bernicia, 480 to 547, and Eppa is the son of Essa of Bernicia, 430 to 520. And then you get really what is considered one of the first kings, which lived sometime between 400 and 500, is Ethelbert, son of Ingwa. So there you have it, tracing my lineage from northeast Texas through the Westmorlands, who immigrated to the United States and Virginia and the Carolinas that made their trek over. They themselves had taken the name of their county, where their family were former lords of nobility and earls of Westmorland. Going tracing them back, they were actually Nevilles of the Neville family. They took their name from their mother, who was the daughter of Geoffrey de Neville. Geoffrey de Neville was the descendant of the Norman family that came over from Normandy. They were a mix of Frankish and Norse, and they would come over with William the Conqueror and would become very wealthy and powerful men. So at this point, the name would go past from a Fitz naming system that was also brought over with the Normans through the Britannies, and it would go to the De Neville after the mother's father, the grandfather, as a powerful, wealthy man. But if you trace the father line through this same Westmoreland and Neville family, it actually ends up with Crinan, a Scottish nobleman, Mormaer of Athol, and the daughter of the King of Scotland, Bethoc, who was the daughter of Malcolm II, King of the Scots. But his mother branches off to the noblemen of Northumbria. And from that point back, you can trace the family line through the earldoms and earls and thanes of Northumbria back to the kings of Northumbria, and then all the way to the kings Bernicia. These people, as I said before, came from Denmark, Angles, with probably some Jutes, Frisians, Geats, and Danes, and even Swedes in their mix, land on the shores of eastern Britain, and would have an enormous and probably the most powerful and wealthy kingdom there in the time of the Anglo-Saxons and the Pictish and Dalriadian Scot and the Britain Welsh kingdoms on the Isle of Britain. It is obvious that Bernicia was a kingdom already in place, found in today's northern England and southern Scotland. But these Germanic Scandinavians would eventually rise to power and become the king and royalty of this area. And of course, probably married into many Celtic Brythonic lines as well as Pictish lines. So that by the time we get down to Crenan's daughter Bethoc marrying this de Neville, we have seen that this line of Northumbrian nobility and royalty is probably a quite fair mixture of Brythonic Celt and Scottish Pictish DNA, along with their Germanic Scandinavian DNA. So there you have it, tracing back through time how a family that had became commoners because of their treason against the crown of England would end up changing their name to the county where they were from and their former earldom, and making their way all the way down into America, all the way through, as we're pushing back in time, going into the future, all the way through the Westmorlands of my great-grandmother, my grandfather's mother, Maggie Dolores Westmoreland, through Rory Dennis Slaton, my father Roger Bruce Slaton, to me, Jonah MacTavish-Slaton. I would hope one day to really expand on this family line from the kings of Northumbria and Bernicia all the way through the Norman connections with the de Nevilles through William the Conqueror, these half Norse, half Frankish nobility, and show their intermarriages into the line of the Scots, also into the line of other Germanic Anglo-Saxon royalty and nobility, all the way through to how the falling out with the crown and how they ended up in America. So hopefully one day I will expand this video with other information, pictures, charts, histories on each one. But until then, this is just my lineage back to the very first, as we said, the very first rulers, Germanic rulers, of the kingdom of Bernicia and Northumbria. If we are to believe the chronicles, and if we are to believe the peerage of Ireland and Britain, then this is accurate. Now, I know for a fact that my lineage all the way back to the Virginia Westmorelans is 100% proven with a paper trail. And according to the researchers of the Westmorland line there is a ton of proof of the Westmorland's connections because of the Fane-Westmoreland connection back to the nobility of the Barons of Raby and Earls of Westmoreland in Northumbria. From that point, the historical line is very much proven, not conjured. But, as always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you are kin to the Westmorlands of the Virginias and the Carolinas, it is quite possibly you are kin to the same line of the nobility of the de Nevilles. And if you are kin to any of the nobility, no matter how low-ranking of individuals they were, they all would link back to the Barons of Raby. And from there, they're all pivoted back to King Malcolm of Scotland, Crinan the Mormaer of Athol, and back to Gregory de Neville, the great, powerful, rich Norman. Also, all the way back to the earldoms or ealdormen and nobility and kings of Bernicia and Northumbria. Thanks for watching. I'm Jonah MacTavish-Slaton. Until next time, signing out.